We're still talking about dysfunctional relationships. The disproportion of a relationship is dysfunctional. One of the things that I talked about in the last video, and it's still true, and you got to go back and think about it. Like I said, black people are the people the most apt to have a dysfunctional relationship. It started in slavery and then it's passed down. Now just think about if no one ever challenges that disposition, if you do not understand that point of view, if you do not go back and reevaluate and think about what you want out of a relationship, if you do not take time to decide how you want to proceed in a relationship, if you don't know yourself, if you don't recover, if you stay in a bad relationship, if you continue, even in a family dynamic, if you never address, just think about how many times you tell yourself and you play down your own feelings. It becomes a habit. And guess what? People are attracted by what they see and what they know. People tell you all the time, predators say all the time, they can identify, a person that is like them or a person that is more susceptible to what they want to do. So if a man sees a woman that's insecure, he can tell already. He knows exactly what to do. He can see a woman, he can spot a woman that has been left untreated and mistreated and alone and ignored. And it starts out, think about every movie you've ever seen when it comes to the bad or the abusive relationship. It starts with the attention. It starts with being seen. One of the biggest things about us as people is that we want to be seen. Being seen means being heard. That means you value what I do, you see what I bring to the table, and you appreciate it. It is nothing worse than being in a family, being anywhere, and not being seen or heard or ignored. Or when you're told, you know what you think really doesn't matter, you're imagining. That's not true. That's not how it is. It may not be what you mean for it to be, but you can never tell somebody that what they feel is not real. What you do is figure out how and what's going on. Sometimes the issue is within us, but an issue does not begin within us without forces and outside environmental things happening to us. What happens in you begins with what happens around you. That's how the dysfunction began. And if it continually happens, you start to believe it. So if I'm the person that is continually ignored or continually pushed aside or always taking the high road or never speaking up when people hurt me or never getting people told, when I want to be the person, always the bigger person, I am always putting myself second. And after a while, people around me, because we teach people how to treat us. Okay? So if you're always doing that and you never say, you know what, I didn't like this and I don't appreciate it. Or, you know what, hey, you did this and you hurt my feelings, so I at least need you to listen. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to. The key in this is that you speak up and you say something. They may never. That's okay. Because as long as you speak to you and you keep talking about your worth, eventually that person will either come up or you'll let them go. And either way, you're the better for it. So when you don't say anything and you keep devaluing yourself, you're teaching people around you that you don't care either. And they'll start to treat you that way. They will start to ignore you. They will say, they will be passive aggressive. Sometimes they're passive aggressive and sometimes they're directly like, honey, what you say doesn't matter. And that's that. So when you don't speak up, when you don't talk, you're starting and creating the dysfunction. And after you've taught everybody how to treat you, then you start to believe it yourself. That's how slavery became such a thing, because it wasn't long before the beatings, the devaluation, the feeling like you could never win, being brought into a land that you knew nothing about, so you didn't even know where to escape to, brought to a people that you did not even understand. When you look at it from that standpoint, they had to either comply or die. So after a while, the slave master, the white man, did not have to teach it. The slave taught it for survival. Now, just because a piece of paper was passed doesn't mean that you're free. Because a mindset is a hard thing to break. It's a hard thing to destroy. The mindset will live on because that's the way you survive. You have told yourself that this is how I survive. You've heard it. You've heard of experiments where they put an insect in a jar and the insect try to jump up, and eventually, they take the top. The insect gets tired and the top is off, and the insect never even knows it and doesn't try to escape. That same principle applies when it comes to us in the human form. After a while of not getting anywhere, you give up. So as a people, somewhere along the line, we gave up. Now, you always had your radicals. You always had the Harriet Tubmans, the Frederick Douglass, the Booker T. Washingtons. You always had those who broke out and did exceptional things. But what if you don't see yourself as exceptional? What if you see yourself as ordinary? That's the way it is. That's why we have to be intentional about breaking generational curses, cycles of pain, and destroying dysfunction relationships. So after you started believing that you're not that special and people reinforce that, where do you find it within? Where's that burning that comes from within? And that comes from God. No, not the universe, because God created the universe. So stop that. That's foolishness. People have started saying the universe because they've been so disappointed by church people. So rather than say God and be associated with church, they would say something like the universe. Well, the devil is a lie, and Candy with Kim is going to keep it real and tell you the truth. God is real, his love is real, and he has a plan for you. Even if you can't get with that, let me get to something that you can identify with. The reason you're meant to break the dysfunctional relationship, the reason you're meant to break the cycle of pain, the reason you're designed to break generational curses is because there is something in you that doesn't stop. You may not have everything you need, you may not have everything you want, but you keep going and you keep fighting. Not only do you keep fighting, you are an encourager. You even know how to lift people when you can't lift yourself. That's how you know that there is more to you. If you can't believe in God, if you can't trust the people around you, trust what lies on the inside of you. Because the way that you started being destroyed was because you believed the things on the outside. It got inside and you started to do it to yourself. But today, these talks, these videos is about breaking dysfunctional relationships. Just because something continued does not mean that it shall continue or that it was right. Slavery lasted for 400 years before we were able to ever break it. And it was a lot of people that lost their lives. It was a lot of people that died, a lot of people that got hurt. And in doing so, it laid a foundation. See, everything that you do, you will not see or reap it today. That's why, young people don't always understand. You need to go back to farming because you won't sow today and reap tomorrow. I am intentional about breaking dysfunctional relationships and cycles of pain in my life. I'm telling you, I have gone through some things in the last 4 or 5 years. It started in November of 2022. And I have been under some pressure. I have been under pressure that people in my family don't even know. But I have been under it. And I have been under it, and I have been fighting every step of the way. And some of it means having to fight some of them, and I have no problem doing it because I choose me. I know what's been going on, and I know what you used to. But we will not be doing business as usual because I messed around and realized who I am. Not what people said, not the things that people said about me, but God spoke to me. I started to believe it, and I will no longer be treated and tolerate second classism. And I want the same for you. That's why I'm talking about voice, dysfunctional relationships, and everything, because I want to see you win. It's been your girl, Candy with Kim.